We're crossing Wednesday LiveStream for this 17th day of November. We are going to focus today on a student request, which was let's talk about sight reading or how to learn new music, sight reading, the notation, when that's not your primary skill. The first thing I want to say is that many of us describe ourselves as less than or not musicians because we don't have a particular skill that we think real musicians have. So I have spent a long life learning how to both hear and learn music, see on written notation and learn music, watch other people play, and in a kinesthetic kind of way, actually doing it. I don't have the synesthesia way where I see colors with chords, but all of us have all these different ways of learning new things. And I just met with a student this week who was describing and kind of echoing this idea that because one skill wasn't tight and optimum, then they were feeling like they were somehow less of a musician. And I just listened and said, it sounds to me like you're a traditional musician. You need to hear it before you can actually, the stuff on paper actually makes sense. There are people who have spent a whole life learning how to read the paper and interpret every detail that's on the paper who don't need to have an oral memory. That's AUARL in order to play the music. They can do it just from reading the chart. I remember Cozy Cole was a drummer, a jazz drummer. His big hit was Topsy, who was an adjunct professor at in the music department, the jazz arts group at Capital University, which is where I went to college. When I was working in the theater as my job, I was on the stage crew and building sets in the basement of Mays Hall, which was the performing location. And Cozy would hang out down there. So we got to have some fun conversations. Unfortunately, like most of us, he had an illness and he died. And but the thing that impressed me was the jazz arts group of which he had been a part played for the memorial service at the chapel. And they played a couple of, they played his Topsy tune, but they also played something that somebody had written for him. And they said when he was very ill in the hospital, they brought him in the chart and he read the chart and he goes, "Oh, this is a good tune. This is a good tune." And that's what impressed me. I wanted to be able to have the ability to do that so that if someone handed me a chart, I would be able to figure out how it would sound and begin to play it. Now, I certainly don't think I'm at the place that Cozy was, where he could hear the whole thing in his head, but I can get a good idea of it. And so what I want to do is go through some examples of how I got to that place. And sight reading is how I did that, developing that skill. I'm writing into the chat, not a talent, which means you don't come pre-programmed to read music. It's like reading English or German or Spanish or Hebrew or Greek or any one of the other myriad of languages we have in written form on this planet. You have to learn how to do it. You had to learn how to speak it too. You had to learn how to hear it. You had to learn how to hear your name. You had to learn how to form the sounds to get mommy and daddy's attention. We all did all of that. We're just reawakening those acquiring skills. So sight reading, though, is a discipline at which I can get better if I do it. Now, that's the whole repetition thing. That is what learning is. If I do something, we've all had this experience. I say, I want to learn how to play the hammer dulcimer. And your brain says, okay. But it doesn't even hardly look away from what it's normally doing. And it's not until you start playing, you go, okay, it's going to take some attention. But if you get up on the second day and do it again, your brain goes, Wait, they might be serious, but I'm going to wait. If I get up on the third and the fourth and the fifth and sixth and seventh day, and on every day I touch my instrument, I play with my instrument, doesn't even matter if it's good or bad or anything, just that I do it. The brain's going, wait a minute, you are serious. I'm going to dedicate some hard drive space for you, because repetitive activity is how we form new neural pathways in our brain. And when that happens, it's not as hard to take that exit. You think, there's a grass paved exit off the freeway. You go, I don't know about this one. It's got some gravel the next time. Okay, more people are using it. Or maybe it's just muddy because there's been a lot of tires the next time. Then there's gravel, and then there's pavement. And you're thinking, okay, a lot of people are using this path. That's the same way the brain works. It paves a path for the things that we spend our time doing. If we say we want to play music, but we don't actually do it, it's like starting over every time. But if we do it over and over again, it becomes easier. So let's talk. Oh, I see some writing here. Aha. So, Doug, you're pretty good at sight reading on other instruments, still learning the skill on the dulcimer, all right? And relearning a lot of skills that you've had before. And Jim, you've heard that some classical composers wrote music scores for reading, not playing. Interesting. I've never heard that. But that doesn't mean it's not true. There's a certain visual symmetry that can happen on a page, which is pretty delightful. When you have the secret decoder ring that does not come in a Cracker Jack box, it comes from what I'm telling you right now. So let's take a look at some different scores. Maybe not famous ones exactly. That's funny. Nope, I don't want to do that because a window. Here's what I want to share. Let's go and do this one first. Here's an example of one of Larry Conger's arrangements. He and Linda Thomas did a book of duets with the hammer dulcimer side, the mountain dulcimer side, and this is one. I don't know this one. I've never heard of it. I've never heard Larry play it, and I'm looking at it. And this particular score gives me a lot of information. It does not give me everything that I'm used to seeing in musical notation. So it's got tablature here instead of a staff of a five staff group of musical notation. It has the string tunings on the left hand side. I know that. It tells me about how fast it's going to be. A quarter note is the same as 100 beats per minute, and I can program a metronome so I can get a kind of an idea. That puts it in the kind of allegro, kind of pitchy walking pace kind of thing. This little thing here tells me it's in 3/4 time. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3. And there's a single stem here. Even though there's no musical notation, it tells me there's 3 beats in this measure. Here, it tells me there's 1, and then there's 2 and 3 and, because these are imitating the musical notation of an eighth note where 2 eighth notes are beamed together. I look through, it appears to be, well, there's another page, but that's harmony. Here is a 1-page piece of music. It has chord symbols above, so if I'd want to play chords, I could just use the chords. Each of the fret numbers are telling me where the frets are on the instrument that I can play. A 1+ means a 1+ fret. Now, if I look at this and say, oh, I don't have a 1+ fret, I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to play the melody, because this measure is not going to be possible on my instrument. These are all the things I'm picking up as I take a look. Then I look for navigation. Ooh, here's my first navigation symbol, the seigne. That is a repeat back to this place and go forward way of doing some notation. Fine. It looks like the English word fine, but it's Italian for finish. Fine. And it's got a double bar. And when I go through, so I'm going to play this, I'm going to go through here. I don't worry about that repeat sign yet. I go fine, but it doesn't say finish. It's not the end. I don't got the hard double bar. So I go, oh, I'm going to go through here. And then it says DS al fine. So it's going to take me back to the sign. And then I'm going to go and finish at the fine. So let me get my mountain dulcimer out here. I'm in this tuning. Excuse me. That's a stretch. I went too far. And I go back and repeat to the same seigne. So you can hear that I'm working my way through. So that's an example of some mountain dulcimer music that has no notation, just tablature. There is a way for me to figure out how to play it. I'm listening going, oh, that's kind of nice. I made some mistakes. I expect that's going to happen. So now let's go to the hammer dulcimer side and let's pick it. I don't know this tune. Blind Mary. This one, oh, I've got musical notation. I don't have any tablature here, do I? It's in 2/4 time. It's got 2 sharps, which suggests to me that we might be in D. There, she's given me the key up here. It tells me I'm in D major. I'm gonna go look at the end. The melody note here is a D, and these ledger lines, which are below the staff, show me that that's a low D. That's the equivalent of the low D on a hammer dulcimer on 1615 and 1514 instruments. And okay, I've got, because it's in 2/4 time, I'm seeing these 16th notes because they've got a double bar, and that can scare me. I can start to think, oh, I don't know if I can do this, because that's a lot happening at once. But as I look through, all the chords are familiar. D, G, A were the ones I expect to hear in the key of D. There's a B minor right here. There's an A. I've got also something in here called split bar notation, because I've got stems going in both directions. It's not because they couldn't make up their mind. She couldn't make up her mind. It's because I've got 2 hammers with the hammer dulcimer. And if I play the stems up, that's the melody here. So da, 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 da. And the other part is the accompaniment that's going below that with the stems down. Now, Linda Lau Thompson is one who did this a lot in her notation too. And you would start to see, oh, if I play with the left hand on the melody doing the high stuff and the right hand doing the accompaniment things, and the stems going both directions, means maybe I can use my right hand for some of that too. I kind of have an idea of how I'm going to do this. This one doesn't have any navigation other than start at the beginning, go to the end. It also has the squiggly line here, which means roll the chord. Now, it's just normal on a hammer dulcimer because